this tutorial, we'll dye cotton fabric with the tulip tree flowers. I couldn't find any information about dyeing with tulip tree flowers, so not sure what to expect. Possibly brown? An adventure. What I call a tulip tree is actually a magnolia, and most likely a Magnolia soulangeana cultivar, which is a cross between Magnolia liliflora and Magnolia denuded. We have a mature tulip tree in our yard and many in the neighborhood. For this project, I used basic dye equipment and a well-ventilated workspace. I used a soaking pot, a dye pot, a heat source, and a candy thermometer to keep the dye bath at a consistent temperature. I also used a strainer and cheesecloth to remove the petals from the dye bath. Supplies include tulip tree petals, lemon, a gallon of water, plus more as needed, prepared cotton fabric, scoured, gallnut mordant, and alum brightener. For safety, use a face mask and rubber gloves. The weight of fabric was about 9 ounces. I typically dye dish towels, but this year I'm expanding to other cotton items. For each batch, I use 2 dish towels, 2 napkins, 2 large handkerchiefs, 2 small handkerchiefs. The fabric was scoured and mordanted. I used a gallnut mordant, followed by a bath of 15% WOF alum and 2% soda ash as a brightener. I collected about 28 ounces of tulip tree flowers, so the WOF percentage for 9 ounces of fabric was about 311%. I gathered the flowers throughout March and froze them to preserve the color. Tulip tree petals are very thick and spongy. It doesn't take long to gather quite a few petals. The supplies for the project include 28 ounces tulip tree flowers, 1/2 lemon, a gallon of water, 9 ounces prepared cotton fabric. First, extract the dye using our basic process. Add petals and lemon to the pot, simmer for an hour, soak petals, strain them. Let's get started. Rinse the petals. Add the petals to a gallon of water in a stainless steel pot. Stir in juice of 1/2 lemon and its rind. Bring to 180 to 200 degrees and simmer for an hour. I have read that temperatures should be kept closer to 180 degrees for flowers and leaves, but my equipment isn't that fine-tuned, so I'll use our basic extract process and see if it works. Soak petals and lemon rind for 3 days. Strain petals out of the dye bath using cheesecloth. Return the dye bath to the stainless steel pot. The resulting liquor is a brownish orange. It has an odd fragrance that is difficult to describe, maybe like soap. Dye the fabric using our basic process. Add wet fabric to dye bath. Heat the dye bath and simmer for an hour. Soak fabric in the dye bath. Rinse and hang to dry. Add wet prepared fabric and simmer for an hour, keeping the temperature between 180 and 200 degrees. Stir periodically to make sure dye is distributed as evenly as possible. Let soak for an hour or overnight. Since I love saturated color, I let it soak for 3 days. Squeeze out excess dye from the fabric. Rinse the fabric in cool water until the water runs clear. Run the fabric through the washing machine's rinse and spin cycles using cold water. Let the towels air dry. 2 weeks later, wash the towels in pH neutral soap like Synthropol and hang to dry. The resulting color is a cheerful lemon yellow.